But I think you are avoiding the most important question in the room.
Which is what?
Like, Harish, why you go and sabotage Leong Mun Wai with your...
That was what my mom was asking me.
Why you set him up
She
like
said,
that?
why you asked that question? I'm like, I didn't ask a question. And before the next episode of the Yah Lah BUT podcast, we have a special announcement. So, given you listening to us now, you know that, we talk about news and current affairs through comedy and conversation on Yah Lah BUT. And if you like that, well, good news. Because we are starting a new podcast that brings the same style we take at Yah Lah BUT here to topics that you should know about but which you may never know. And what is the podcast called, Terrence?
It's called Tell You First.
And what is it about, then?
It's an edutainment podcast that dives into, a lot of interesting and fascinating facts about topics that maybe you should know more about, but actually you don't. So you've maybe heard a little bit about them, but actually when you go deep into them, they're really, really interesting.
Yeah. For example, the long hair band in the 60s. You may have heard about it, but we will dive deep into stuff around it that even we didn't know beforehand.
Yeah. And one topic that I really enjoyed doing research on and reading about was about the beer industry in Singapore, how it began and how it's interweaved into our society and even the geographic locations in Singapore.
I see. I think my personal favorite is the Koro crisis of 1967, where there were people in Singapore who thought their genitalia was disappearing. It was like a mass hysteria.
Yeah. We go into all sorts of interesting nuggets of history. We talk a lot about scientific discoveries that happen not only in Singapore but around the world as well, right?
Yeah.
So it's really been quite eye-opening, even the process of hosting and just doing research about the topics as well.
A new episode will be released every Tuesday, starting with the Tuesday that just passed, yesterday, with our first episode. With Joakim Gomez.
Yeah, the 987 presenter and producer who, has a very interesting take on the topic that I think you were talking about, which is parrot astrology.
Yeah, parrot astrology. Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's something that you, parrot astrology, you might know about it, right? But trust me, the stuff you will learn from listening to this podcast going to blow your mind, man.
So this show was actually produced by us at Ministry of Funny and presented by MediaCorp. So obviously you can listen to it on Me Listen and a lot of other podcast platforms like Spotify or wherever you find good podcasts, right?
Yeah.
And so remember to follow the podcast and leave a good rating if you enjoyed what you listened to.
So remember, new episodes every Tuesday, 30 episodes in total. So we're going to see you through to 2025. And now, on to the podcast. What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Yah Lah, your thrice weekly podcast where we talk about the hottest news with a touch of what, Terrence?
Good old humor and occasionally acts of contempt.
Not said by us. Not said by us. We're a very uncontemptuous podcast.
I believe so. We're uncontroversial.
Yeah. This is a interesting few days.
A special dispatch from Parliament.
The best time to have been in Parliament, unfortunately, we were not there.
Yeah. So, And I mean,
for context,
right?
I mean, we're actually going to be talking about it.
Yeah.
So maybe then we are jumping straight into it. No?
Sure. Yeah.
We still need to do our regular small talk first.
Yeah, of course.
So how has the week been?
Unexpectedly, exciting. I wouldn't say exciting, but and a lot of unexpected things coming up during the week.
Yeah.
You see, the moment you being away is it seems like the best thing ever. Like everything just picks up, right?
No, but now that I'm back, it's picking up even more. Hey, hello.
But this one not your doing, nothing to do with you.
No, but can you imagine if all this came out while I was away?
Oh yeah.
Oh shit! Then I would just dial in from wherever I am, man.
No, you just fly back. You fly back straight away. Cut short your holiday. Sorry, tell your wife sorry. Coming back for
that's why
emergency.
Yeah, emergency. Yeah.
I think these podcasts and the rest is politics and stuff like that. They have these things called emergency pods, where after the Biden debate, the next day they had an emergency podcast recording.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because it was such a big thing to dissect what went on in the debate, you see.
But it felt like they could have planned it before. Why must be an emergency?
I guess you didn't realize it would be that terrible. Like, I mean, for those who haven't seen the US presidential debate,
fucking terrible.
It was a terrible look for Biden, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of people did not expect it to be that bad. Right?
Yeah. No, because like if Jon Stewart, I think on the day itself, he already uploaded, he talked about it. So that's why like for such a podcast as big as that, I thought they would have planned ahead of time.
Maybe they're not as free as you and me, right? To sit there and wait for things to happen. Yeah.
Yeah, correct.
That's what we do.
Plus with the US, there's so much to talk about every day.
Yeah.
But I mean, interesting topic that I guess we can jump into now.
Yeah. But before that, like, what's the plug that we always tell people?
That if you are listening or watching to this podcast, please do consider subscribe. Actually, don't consider. Just do it. Just subscribe. Follow us wherever you're consuming this. Just hit the subscribe button on YouTube, the follow button on Spotify, or wherever else you're consuming this, and our social media as well, because we share extracts from every podcast, including the one that we're going to be talking about.
Yeah.
And what's the other piece of the puzzle?
Yeah, if you want to work with us, check out ministryofffunny.com. Ministry of Funny, that's who we are, right?
Yeah.
That's our website where we list everything that we do, including this podcast as well.
Yeah, and you can reach out to us via that website. Cool, man. All right.
It's funny to be talking about a piece of news of which we are part of that piece of news. Yeah, it is a bit surreal. Right?
Yeah, because I mean, there were some rumblings last week already, or the week before, right? When Leong Mun Wai himself had to post something on Facebook clarifying that okay, so basically, if you haven't heard, in the Parliament sitting yesterday on 2nd July, it was kicked off, to a full house.
Yeah.
It was kicked off with a 14-minute segment by the Speaker of the House, Seah Kian Peng, referring to an exchange that Leong Mun Wai had with us on our podcast episode with him and his concerns about it.
Yeah.
So I think about a week plus ago, we already saw Leong Mun Wai post about it on his social media.
Yeah.
I think some independent news sites picked it up. But this one is like, it was a long time in Parliament.
Yeah.
And today on Straits Times, I think it was one of the trending articles talking about this. And it feels like, I don't even know what else happened in Parliament because this is getting a surprising amount of attention.
Yeah.
And the title of the articles are along the lines of Leong Mun Wai's comment about being called last to speak in Parliament casts aspersions on Speaker's impartiality. So, Terence, maybe you can walk me through your emotions. Because I know we knew that the Parliament was going to start at 12 p.m. yesterday.
Yeah.
At 12:05, I think you messaged our team group.
Yeah.
It's happening.
Yeah. That was the surprising thing, right? Because it wasn't mentioned as part of proceedings in Parliament. It was right at the start. The moment the live stream began and everyone's seated and all, then they have the whole ceremony, with the rod. I don't know what they call it, the staff or the rod that they bring in. The moment the rod put down, the guy carrying the rod did his bow and then marched out. Before he even finished marching out of the place, Seah Kian Peng started talking about this already.
Yeah, and it was to a full house. When you look at the video, all the big guns are there.
The big guns
the current PM, the ex-PM, and a lot of the senior ministers. I mean, the people who've been in Parliament for a long time.
Yeah. I mean, would you characterize your reaction as gleeful at that point or what? What were you feeling?
I mean, slightly gleeful.
Okay, it's weird because we didn't know that. We knew that obviously what Leong Mun Wai was doing was something about talking about Parliament, right?
Yeah,
so
you mean during the recording itself?
No. Prior. I mean last week, right? When he did. So we thought maybe it might come out in Parliament. We weren't 100% sure.
Yeah.
So we wanted to just catch it to see if anything might be mentioned in a 5-minute segment or something.
Yeah, because if we knew, we probably would have gone.
Yeah. Did not expect it to take up like you said 14 minutes of everyone's time right at the start of the sitting of Parliament, because that's when they get the important stuff out of the way, right?
Yeah, and I'll explain why I was feeling gleeful, because I mean, just like it started off, one of the first few lines was like the name Yah Lah But was mentioned, Harish and Terence, and I think eventually he addressed me as Mr. Harish, which is what I'm going to be going as from now on. Mr. Harish addressed in Parliament. So there was the part that was suddenly, oh shit, I mean, it's a bit surreal. Because we talk about a lot of politics, we've been to Parliament, but it's always been as like an observer, like, you know. But to hear our names uttered, and I mean, the good thing is it was less about us. Like we technically, I don't think did anything wrong. In the eyes of Parliament or the authorities.
You could substitute us for any platform, and it would be the same thing.
Correct. And then, but just hearing it unfold, and how much time was spent, then I was thinking, okay, then I had some thoughts, lah.
Yeah. I mean, I'll admit, right, you know, you always imagine, you see like Joseph Schooling win Olympic medal, then people Parliament, people clap, people like Shanti Pereira won, people clap.
As part of speeches.
That's how your name is brought up in Parliament. I mean, did not expect my name to be brought in Parliament, you know, this soon for quite different reasons than an Olympic gold medal.
I always picture myself, you know, some minister talking about the importance of arts, you know, by the two Academy Award winners, you know, Terence Chia and
Asian Academy. Academy.
As in like projecting, just dreaming in the future, or like, you know, Emmy Award winning acting performance and all. But totally different.
Different. So I mean, as much as you know, you like what you said, maybe gleeful, but also understanding that the context of it was, you know, essentially an exchange where someone is being lectured, right? Or being spoken to about his behavior. So you also have to dial back how gleeful you felt about it also, right?
Because exactly that. It is still a serious matter, you know. It wasn't just a like that kind of thing where you want to
shout out.
I showed it to my mom, and I think she's still worried that something will happen, and I think just being mentioned in Parliament or that sort of platform in a way that is not very clearly a positive reference, can be a bit unsettling.
Correct.
But the crux of the matter of what Mr. Seah was getting at was that it was generally seen in his eyes, or I guess in the eyes of Parliament, that it is an act of contempt. So basically the exchange, if you didn't see the podcast or unaware, literally, I think it was kind of, you were explaining why we wanted to get Leong Mun Wai on the podcast, and that, you know, like that because we have been to Parliament and we could see the passion in Leong Mun Wai just as an observer. And then I said, you know, whenever the speaker asks any questions, you're the first to put your hand up. And we all collectively shared a chuckle. And then Leong Mun Wai kind of added that, and that he's the last to be called. And then we shared another chuckle. But then we moved on. And I think you asked about whether he was always someone who asked questions growing up. And then he said, no, you know, not so much in school, not so much in the course of work. And then we just carried on.
Correct.
So that was the exchange. But I guess like hearing what Seah Kian Peng was saying, the notion that Leong Mun Wai is the last to be called in Parliament is not an accurate notion.
Cast aspersions on the impartiality of the speaker.
Spoken like the Speaker of the House.
And I think us aside, right, putting us aside, I think when you read about the responses that people have online, they're saying, hey, why so petty, right? You know, can't they take a joke? It's just a joke. Why so petty and making a big mountain out of a molehill and things like that, right? Fun fact, and they also, some people even bring up the fact that I don't know if you remember, but when Kamala Harris first visited Singapore as the VP of the US, apparently Seah Kian Peng he also made a little bit of a gaffe, right, that was criticized when he pointed out on social media that Kamala spelled backwards is alamak.
Oh, that was him, is it?
So I mean, I thought that was a brilliant joke, right? But some people didn't see the humor in it. They found that, hey, you're belittling a guest who's coming to Singapore, who's the VP of the most powerful, one of the most powerful nations in the world, right? So I'm not sure. I can't remember if he took it down or anything like that. But basically, there was a bit of a mini backlash lah, right? On what was meant to be a joke lah, right? And quite a funny joke, I must say. Seah Kian Peng has a sense of humor lah. So people are saying, wow, then why now when someone else makes a joke about, proceedings in Parliament, why are they suddenly making such a big fuss about it lah, right? What are your thoughts when you hear people saying that?
Why is he?
Why make such a big fuss out of it? Like, what is such a petty thing, right?
I mean, I do think that certain processes, even in our business, in other things, certain processes do need to be respected and followed, because otherwise, a lawless society is going to be tough, lah.
Yeah.
And I think when things are not adhered to, which could have further repercussions, they should be addressed. But at the end of the day, after listening to this, I still feel that it doesn't come across very good for the speaker, because it does feel very petty, and it almost brings so much attention to something that would polarize people, and not in favor of the speaker or the party is associated with, because it comes across as petty.
Yeah. A bit of Streisand effect, right?
Yeah.
I think people will be checking out the podcast because of this, which is not a bad thing, I must add.
Yeah.
But that's me completely being biased, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, it does bring attention to something that a lot of people might not have even noticed at all, right?
Yeah. So and also I think okay, there's one thing about mentioning it in Parliament, and I think the speaker has the right to bring up anything he wants. But at the start of the Parliament proceedings, it's almost like any meeting. I don't know what the equivalent is in Parliament, like like any other business. You go around the table, anything to add at the end of the day, because Parliament, I think yesterday went on for 6, 7, 8 hours.
Yeah.
So it's already a long ass time. And here are people in positions of power, positions of authority, battling, all challenges facing Singapore on so many fronts. And this takes up the first 14 minutes.
Yeah.
Felt a bit much, lah.
But I would argue that that's a procedural matter, right? Because Parliament, there are more important things to discuss. But this one is to do with your conduct in Parliament, right?
Yeah.
So you want to get that out of the way first, so to remind everybody what your conduct in Parliament should be. Then we carry on with how Parliament is, lah. You know what I mean? So it's you set the record straight, you set the tone, right?
Yeah.
And then you carry on with your meeting, lah. It's kind of like, you go for sometimes you go for this kind of talks on it. Just to establish this Chatham House rules. Yeah, everybody, we know what we're not going to. Nothing said here goes out with the direct quote, right? So it's kind of like setting the tone, So I mean, I thought it was okay that it came at upfront. As in, I think it would actually it wouldn't work that well if it came at the end, because a lot of people might have even left or just tuned out already, right? But this is a disciplinary matter, so it must be upfront.
Okay, that's true. That's true. It's like the analogy I was going to use is like a drinking game, you do it at the start.
Drinking game.
The rules, you set down the rules.
Oh, okay. I thought it was like, wow. What kind of drinking game is so you talk about acts of contempt?
Not to say that I drink a lot or anything,
Yeah.
But like any game, anything, you set it up front where the most people are in attendance. If it's something that's relevant to everyone,
Yeah.
Okay, correct. But then I mean, if you didn't listen to it, you might be wondering how could this be extended to 14 minutes? Because he went through the entire exchange over email between him and Mr. Leong.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, I think he was asking Mr. Leong to apologize.
Yeah.
And the TLDR is that I don't think Leong Mun Wai apologized.
He did.
Oh,
as in finally he did lah. He finally did. But it's over multiple exchanges.
Multiple exchanges.
Yeah.
He did.
I believe so, yeah.
Actually, I don't think so, no?
Oh, still no. Okay.
Okay, so from what I understand, so there was an exchange, then they met in person.
Yeah.
Then on the day itself, after meeting, Seah Kian Peng sent an email to Leong Mun Wai asking for an apology, to which he responded, given that you accept that there was no intention to cast aspersions on your impartiality as a speaker, I trust you will agree that it would not be accurate to make an apology that suggests an intention to mislead listeners on my part. So then after that, I think it kind of ended in him kind of acknowledging that from what he understands that, right, I don't think...
actually, you're right.
There wasn't, right? So maybe that also caused the issue to be needing an address in Parliament. So if Leong Mun Wai apologized, maybe it wouldn't have blown up. Maybe it wouldn't have required as much email exchanges or a face-to-face meet. So that might be something lah.
I think that's so that's hearing those details now, and even being so close to it, I still didn't even realize that
he didn't apologize.
An apology. So hearing that, that kind of even brings it to the forefront even more that it needs to be something tackled up front. Right? If you feel that, as a Speaker of the House, if you feel that there's a disciplinary issue that someone is not willing to apologize for, probably that's something you want to do, bring it to everyone's attention up front, right?
But then the thing is, so to clarify, Leong Mun Wai said that to bring the matter to a close, he would retract his words and a few other words, and then to which Seah Kian Peng said on July 2nd that he considers the matter closed after giving careful and due consideration to the totality of Mr. Leong's explanations. So you, maybe if, like what we were saying, if Leong Mun Wai apologized, it wouldn't have been brought up in Parliament. But then the question comes up, should Leong Mun Wai have apologized?
I think if you're just reading what he said, basically he feels that if it was an apology, it would kind of be admitting that there's an intention, right, to do what they said he did, right? So this is in the realm of like the kind of norms in Parliament and the norms between politicians as well, right? Like in some sense, there might be some political wrangling going on here about being forced to apologize, because everyone knows as a politician, your words can and will be used against you, right? So if you apologize for something that you don't think is a very big deal, that you yourself think was like in his words, a very light-hearted comment and all that, right? Then you are sort of admitting to some kind of fault, And so, I don't think we can make a moral judgment of how whether the an apology is necessary or what, but that definitely for him there's political cost, right, to apologize on, or to stand firm saying he's not going to apologize.
Because as Seah Kian Peng brought up himself, he brought up another incident where Leong Mun Wai did apologize. In 22. So I think Leong Mun Wai probably has the most number of apologies made in Parliament. The record most. So he's like, I'm not going to do another one. But I guess, when you're with friends or partners and all, sometimes you say sorry even when you're not guilty, right? To protect the relationship,
I mean, because the idea is that you value the relationship over being right, right? Or being proven correct or anything.
Anyone in a long-term relationship would
you understand that term, like you value the relationship over being right. Do you want to be right or do you want to be happy? Right? So
that's why.
In some sense, Leong Mun Wai maybe is drawing a line in the sense saying, I want to be happy. Oh no, I don't want to be happy. I want to be right.
I thought you were going to say that politics is different from relationships.
No. I mean, but so that's what I'm saying. Where political wrangling, how he handles this also will be examined as well, right? It's scrutinized by the public. But that said, also I think something that you were saying before we came in here also was that can you blame the speaker for having this level of scrutiny on things being said about his position? Can you blame him? Given everything that's happened in the last year and a half.
Because the position of Speaker of Parliament has been tarnished, right, by the ex-speaker, right? Who had not just one but a few altercations, There was the hot mic incident. And then, of course, his eventual affair. So I mean, what I was hinting at was that maybe that's why they need to be extra careful of anything that casts any doubt on the behavior of the speaker.
But because in that light, I actually I mean, it's what he did is very by the book, right? But
as in what Seah Kian
Peng decided to do in this case is very by the book. But there's so much scrutiny on that role of the speaker right now, right? And any kind of disparaging comment or what needs to be nipped in the bud, Because I do feel like, I mean, election season aside, there's just so much heat on the role of the speaker, right?
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
And I mean, just to build on what you said about being by the book, literally there is the privileges, the Parliament Act of 1962, which covers the privileges, immunities, and powers, which, and I quote, makes it in a contempt of Parliament to make any statement which reflects on the character of the Speaker or any member touching on his conduct in Parliament or anything done or said by him in Parliament, or to publish willfully any false or perverted report containing a gross, scandalous misrepresentation of any debate or proceedings of Parliament. Basically, there is an act that says that if you talk shit about someone, it's a contempt of court.
Yeah.
So talking shit about someone is not perfectly objective. It can be quite subjective. So I guess technically anyone can raise this. Right. I think even Indrani brought it up last year in April relating to the conduct of MPs inside and outside of Parliament.
Yeah.
Because sometimes things can get a bit heated. So yes. Okay, so we talk about the by the book and whether it makes sense. And you can see some reason why they would want to make sure that the role of Speaker of the House is not tarnished further.
Yeah.
But then, right, the consequences of doing this, I feel, is more, it hurts the position, the party more than it does good. Because,
why?
I mean, like, just looking at comments coming up online, digging deep into what I feel, trying to be objective as a layperson if I were to see this and not being like involved in it somewhat, it just makes it sound like, okay, there is a certain level of pettiness. There is a certain level of the machinery being used against the opposition party member, and the opposition party member is the victim. If you don't want to dive deep into the details.
Yeah.
And I think that is just the reality of it, which I don't know. Like, I don't know whether the speaker even could foresee this, or the people who are from the party could foresee this, and we are okay with it.
I mean, my guess is that you and I, we are looking at it from a, wow, look at the response to this now kind of mentality, right? But again, I'm reminded a lot of times that politicians, if anything, they are able to see that the longer term picture, or the longer term, the longer term, how one event is just part of a longer process, right?
It's like what Shanmugam said when he came. Right?
Yeah, what Shanmugam said when he came.
And which was what? Just for people
I think he specifically said, was referencing Prof Ma, right? Where, right now you might be thinking that, Streisand effect and it seems so petty to be, harping on certain untruths or whatever like that. But the fact of the matter is, like 10 years later, people are going to look at it and they're not going to remember what the incident was, but they'll remember that, okay, this was a falsehood, right? And that's what's going to be go on record in history. And in some ways, this act of calling out something that was unseemly behavior for a member of parliament is, right now, it seems, the chatter online, it's petty and all, and Streisand effect, everything. But in the longer term, people are going to look at the hindsight and remember, there was this moment where a certain kind of action was called out in parliament, and so it should not be repeated again in the future, right? And so you're sort of laying down the law and sort of just putting in the hindsight in the record that this was said. And I mean, it's quite funny that Yah Lah But and Terence and Harish are also part of that record that will go on forever.
If Spotify falls out, if Apple crumbles and whatnot, but our names have been immortal.
Immortalized in the parliamentary Hansard, forever.
Because I mean, the Hansard, Parliament should always be there, right?
It's forever,
So okay, so I get that the long-term play is often very important in politics. But what I'm worried about, and what I don't know whether the PAP and all realize, is that this could become a political tool that is used by opposition members or whoever. You think about how much airtime this has been given, how much sentiment could be, impacted even marginally in the short term. And all it took was one thing said on a podcast. And if you imagine if this becomes weaponized, right? It can be something that could backfire.
Correct. But I will also say it could go the other way, right? It could be used as a political tool to show, this person shoots from the hip, doesn't think about what he says carefully and all as well, right? And there's an official record of him being chastised for it. So I can see it both ways. But I think you are avoiding the most important question in the room.
Which is what?
Like, Harish, why you go and sabotage Leong Mun Wai with your...
That was what my mom was asking me.
Why you set him up?
She said, why you asked that question? I'm like, I didn't ask a question. It was just a statement I made. I wasn't expecting anyone to fill in the blanks.
Yeah.
I just said something. So I will not apologize, Terrence.
Oh, you will not apologize.
Yeah, I will not apologize because by saying sorry, it brings about...
Acknowledges that you made a mistake and you did something wrong.
And I did not. I did not ask him. I just made a statement and I didn't even serve him a ball. It was just just throwing a ball into empty space and he threw it back.
Yeah. No, we record so much. Sometimes I don't even remember some of these exchanges, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I watched back our clip, so I don't even remember. So when you pulled out the clip again and I watched it, I was like, I was very surprised because it was, the comment from Mr. Leong was really a joke from out of left field, right? It was... Yeah. It wasn't. We were not setting up for something funny or anything. We were just saying, it was just like seeing you in Parliament. It was like, okay, you can tell you're very passionate, right? In essence, complimenting him in some way, right?
Yeah.
And then he inserted that joke in. So I think in that sense, I own self absolve own self of anything to do with this.
Yeah.
So for anyone who thinks that we were trying to set him up to get knocked down or anything, it was not the case, right?
Yeah, because literally after that, we didn't go down or drill down into the statement he made. It was about his upbringing and all that.
Yeah. Correct. Yeah.
So then and oh shit, I lost my train of thought. But I think it's one of those things that we didn't even pull it up as an excerpt to share on social media because we try to share the most talkable or shareable excerpts on social media after every podcast, and we didn't even select that.
It was a very throwaway thing, right?
Yeah, it was a very throwaway thing. Yeah. So then it becomes a thing about now I remember. So basically, one thing that Seah Kian Peng did as part of his 14 minutes is also talk about how he, or I guess his team, looked at the records from all the parliaments since he took over last August.
Yeah.
And they actually counted the number of times that Leong Mun Wai was called on and how many times he was called on for the same issue. And that's how they said there's no proof to justify Leong Mun Wai's aspersions.
So it's like the parliamentary VAR, video assisted refereeing. You call on the records.
Just wait, go watch the screen and all, then come back. And then it becomes a thing how many people were working on this,
Yeah.
How much time did it take? Because this is in parallel with everything that we are hearing about, the current challenges facing not just Singapore, but every country. So much global turmoil. But then there's a bunch of people looking at how many times Leong Mun Wai got called in Parliament. I get how certain things you need to, nip it in the bud in Parliament. But watching the whole thing unfold, it just made me feel oh shit, is this the best use of parliamentary time? I don't know. Is it, and given Parliament already extends to 8 hours and they're sitting again today, I think. So it just felt is this the Streisand effect to the max?
But then again, that's what politicians are there to do, right? They're there to talk and they're there to reflect the constituents' concerns and everything out there, right? And also, there's going to be debates, there's going to be disagreements, and all that goes in the record, right? Because I think the last podcast we were talking about, remember the Protect Singapore scorecard, where they also went through and scrutinized all the speeches that every member of parliament has made, and whether it was pro-LGBT or anti-LGBT and things like that, right? And then they graded it some more. So we don't say that is such a waste of time. We actually came to a conclusion that actually this is useful. Right? It was useful information for us. So in some ways, for politicians who by definition, they have to debate and disagree with each other on certain things. This is part of the job. To us, it sounds very bo liao. It's like digging through, the email chains, that kind of thing when you have when you argue with someone at work or your supplier or something like that. Wow,
WhatsApp, then you have to
you said on this day at this minute and this email, I reference this email with reference to your email dated, blah blah.
Yeah.
That's the thing that you do in corporate world. So in some sense, this is that equivalent in Parliament.
So I mean, it just felt like an inordinate amount of time, and I mean the number of articles being published. I mean, again, it's if it brings more eyes to our podcast and makes people aware, it's great.
Yeah.
But just objectively, I'm like,
Do you fear that people will see, hey, I go on your podcast, later I can
that's another thing. I don't know how it will impact the people's willingness to come on our podcast.
Yeah.
I hope they also realize that we weren't trying to corner him or something.
Yeah.
But I do feel there'll be an impact.
Well, but I would add, like, it's not like Leong Mun Wai was the only opposition member to ever come on a podcast and say their mind and all. Because Jamus Lim, not too long before that, also came on our podcast. But as far as I remember, nothing was brought up in Parliament about what he said, right?
Yeah.
So my thing is, I think we still pride ourselves in like being able to talk openly about things, but also we do hope that the guests also, they know what they can or can't say, and also do their best to tell us upfront if there's something that they can or can't say as well.
Yeah, because we've had I wouldn't say opposition presidential candidates. We've had presidential candidates who've also said things that have got them in the news.
Yeah.
But I think there have also been people who have come on who have gotten a lot of their messages reached out to a lot more people because of what they say on the podcast.
Yeah, and positive things.
Positive things. But then you think next time we go Parliament, got our faces on the thing, like we want to walk in, come on or something.
In some sense, in spite of it's interesting that we got mentioned yesterday, I always try to remember that, we're just one small platform, right? Compared to everything else that is discussed in Parliament, 8 hours of debate and all that kind of things. So it's I think don't overstate how important you are to the discourse.
We walk into Parliament, hey, why no one looking at me? Why? Why they just treating us
the person he's looking at me, right? He's looking at me. I think yesterday you were at some event where you thought one of the guests of honor was looking at you, right?
Oh yeah. On Monday. I thought he was, but there was a screen behind me.
But I tell you, that's the disease of the influencer, right?
Correct.
I've pointed out to you a long time before, because in our lives doing content creation, I've mostly been behind the camera, at least in the earlier part, right? You were always in front of camera.
Yeah.
But there's always this I always sense this from content creators when they walk around. They're always looking for eye contact. and then you have very big eyes and it's damn obvious. You're scanning for eye contact at that. Then when it meets, it's like the QR code, the QR code and that just identifies, and then your eyes lock. I sense this in a lot of influencers.
I won't deny that last time. I would say last time. I don't think anymore. It was a thing where I found my even to a certain extent self-esteem kind of affected by how many times people recognize me on the street. After we do a viral video and I walk everywhere, people are like, oh my god, you're real. I feel like a fucking champion. But when we stopped doing MOF videos for a while and all, then after that I felt like, hey shit, there's lacking. Why is going out into the town not as fun as before? So it is I would say it's a maybe disease, a bit of a strong word. It's a job hazard.
Job hazard.
But now I don't think so, Terrence.
Now less so already.
Now maybe you got it.
No. People come up to me saying, "Oh, they recognize my voice because I'm shouting at my kid or something like that outside." But they recognize my voice. No, but I always like it because actually, the idea of this podcast is that it's a very long conversation that we have, and people resonate with the conversation, and they tell us things like, "Oh, it means a lot because it's like a peek into the mind of a Singaporean," or it meant something a lot to me especially when I was living overseas.
As in, you like it when people come up to you?
I appreciate it because I know that it's more than just because they saw me in a paid ad or something like that. It's a paid ad put out there and it was forced down people's throats, right? It's all self-selection. People chose to listen to us and they chose to engage with us and spend an hour per session.
So maybe that's what all influencers think there. Why? So you are a morally superior person who is self-reflective enough, to be that conscious, is it? Whereas everyone is just superficial, is it?
No, but our medium is primarily audio, right? It's audio. So it's about the content.
No, we also have video.
But but I would say there's still a good half of the people who just listen
Terence,
to audio only.
you are drinking your own Kool-Aid.
No.
You are as guilty.
What I'm doing,
you are as guilty as everybody else.
and
just
we
accept it.
we started off from a place of discussing how let's not play up how important we are in Parliament.
I'm not playing it up. I'm just saying that you are kind of denying the reality of like how people may recognize you, not because of the depth of your conversation. It might just be a short clip they saw you.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Possibly.
Yeah, just acknowledge it, Terence.
Acknowledge.
It's a job hazard. It's a job hazard.
But my eyes are small, so it's not so obvious. You see. Your eyes fucking big. It's like you're scanning.
Like a lighthouse. Like a lighthouse.
You're like the sniper rifle. That kind of thing.
Then they come up and they mistake me for another Indian dude on TV.
Yeah.
But
tragic.
I mean, I don't know how long more this is going to carry on. I don't think so because it was announced yesterday. The articles came out today. And it's another thing on our CV, I guess.
Yeah. And there are a lot of funny messages I get, like, wow, from your first time, your 3 times 20 cent thing at Parliament, and now it comes to being mentioned in Parliament. You come a long way in this journey to Parliament.
Yeah. Then I mean now also like we're at the age where some of our peers that we grew up with are appearing in Parliament as MPs and MPs.
Yeah.
But then now like I think we made a joke last time like they were all on the ground floor and we are on the second floor.
Yeah.
It's just interesting.
It's a big debate about whether what we did was friendly to the opposition or friendly to PAP and everything like that, right? But there's a group of people where it's more black and white, and they've clearly been labelled friends of the PAP, right? But why has this group also caused a lot of people to get upset?
Because at a recent event, actually like just slightly less than a month ago on June 8th, there was a refresh PAP event at MBS Expo and Convention Centre. But even though it happened on June 8th, there's still a lot of discussions happening about this topic that we're going to talk about. So we figured, it's time we address it. So at that event, it was Lawrence Wong speaking to a bunch of groups and organizations that are within the PAP network that kind of further the party's efforts. But one group in particular was the Friends of PAP. And why it got a lot of traction is that there were a few prominent, or quite a number of prominent influencers that were part of that friend group. And there were pictures of them, shaking hands, taking selfies with Lawrence Wong. There were a lot of posts referring to Lawrence Wong as like king or and not the most political posts, but more almost like fanboy, fangirl posts. So that brought up the discussion of like, what is this Friends of PAP thing? Isn't it kind of like because whenever content creators and influencers do paid content, sponsored content, there's always this notion of like, they've sold out, because for people who create content for a living, then it blurs the lines between what content they want to create organically versus what they're being pressured to create. And this waded into that territory. So then, it caused people to talk about it. But have you heard of the term Friends of the PAP?
No, not like this.
So it's a new term to you. Yeah, it's a new term to me also. But apparently, Friends of the PAP was actually a program that is not just this year, do you know, I think it's been around for a long time, even as far back as 2002, right? The Secretary General, who was Goh Chok Tong at the time, wanted to expand the program. Because at that time, it was limited to just establishment figures in the public and private sector. So then there was Young Friends of the PAP. So it's been running for a long-ass time.
Yeah. I did not know, but I'm also not surprised.
But I would imagine any political party, they would have like friends, and I say friends in air quotes, but the title Friends of the PAP has been around for a long time. It's just that in June, the PAP has revived the program and expanded it with a particular focus on social media influencers.
So actually, if it's been around so long, why are people getting riled up about this term Friends of the PAP now?
I think, first of all, I think it's always easy to hate on social media influencers. But also the fact that a lot of them were seen like, rubbing shoulders with the leaders and all. I think people are just calling them sellouts and all that.
Or is it just sour grapes? Because they are not friends of PAP.
I don't know. What do you think?
I think because it took place at a very big event, right? And the only interaction that you see between the influencers and the politicians are selfies, fist bumps, handshakes. And literally, I think one of the influencers just posted a selfie with Lawrence Wong, right? And then said, meet my prime minister / idol. Yeah. So I think that's what turned people off, in the sense that you can be a friend of PAP and, like advocate for their policies or things that they promote, right?
Yeah.
Their values or things like that. But when it's just meeting and then saying, this is my idol, without, any elaboration or any showing some semblance of further engagement with the politician and understanding what they stand on important issues and what they stand for in important issues, then I think it's kind of a turn off, because it just means that you're just telling your fan base or what that this is my idol, and not really talking about why you respect them that much and things like that. And then that's why I think a lot of people are turned off by.
But I mean, it's just one post, right?
Correct, yeah.
It's just one post. So are they wrong to post that, you can kind of idolize the PM?
Yeah.
You can be a friend of the PM.
Yeah.
But maybe politically also it aligns with your beliefs, right?
Possibly, but given that there's an official program, Friends of the PAP, I think that's where there can be a bit more transparency about what do you mean exactly by Friends of the PAP, right? Beyond just being an idol, or beyond just taking selfies and exposing them to more of your followers, right?
Yeah. So I mean, I think there's definitely the tendency to want to shit on social media influencers.
Sure.
I know there have been people who also talk about. I think there was a recent thread on Reddit that accused local podcasters of buying listens and all. So I think it happens a lot.
Yeah.
In this case, I think what maybe is gets a bit tricky is maybe even the term friends of the PAP. Because some people pointed out that so some of the influencers there was like Simon Boy, and a few others, but Simon Boy in particular, both Lawrence Wong and I think even Desmond Lee after that did point out that the goal is to further the reach of the PAP and connect with younger audiences, right? So Simon Boy, his background, I mean, he's a reformed drug addict, ex-drug addict, right?
Yeah.
And he has been very vocal about saying he's found a second life,
yeah.
in some way because of like the way things work in Singapore, and he wants to spread awareness. So he might be able to share a perspective of younger folk who going through that path that might be very useful for the PP, right? But he's also getting a lot of hate for being part of this,
Yeah.
So I mean, that's the objective view. If I think about it personally, I also feel that it just there's a iffy feeling about it, and I don't know how to describe it. It's like during the presidential elections last year when certain candidates were holding closed door sessions with like content creators, and then you see the questions. It's just like, oh, what's your favorite this and all that. And it's like
your favorite nasi lemak.
What the fuck do I care? But that was during an election.
Yeah.
Which had more weight,
Yeah.
If it's just friends of the PAP, there's an iffy feeling, but I don't know.
And if you remember, if you're old enough to remember, the OG like influencer friend of the PAP was actually Seah Xue. Right? Remember, Seah Xue. In fact, she got a lot of flack back in the day when she, I think she had the PAP colors like painted on her face and things like that, right? In support of them, and then a lot of people, were saying very nasty things about her, doxing her and things like that. But if I recall correctly, she basically doubled down on it, right? And she said that I agree with the politics, or at least like the policies of the PAP government and things like that, and I'm expressing my support. So I don't care, right? And you all can go and screw yourselves and your views and all that. But it's just my thing, and then I think it kind of devolved into something where she also got a spat with somebody, and like there were some issues of doxing and stuff like that got quite ugly also. I remember that. But I mean, this is not a new thing where influencers are getting closer to politicians from a certain political party. But can you fault the influencers for doing that also? Because I mean, ultimately, it's also siding with the more what do you call it, the ruling party, right?
Majority party.
Majority party, and it also maybe opens doors in terms of meeting people or having gigs and stuff like that. So can you blame the influencers for wanting to side with the winners?
Yeah, I mean, I guess can't blame them. But I think one factor is also the rules around like declaring sponsored content in Singapore is not as robust as like say I think the
Australia.
UK or Australia.
Yeah.
And I think that might be an issue because like I mean the government does work with content creators and influencers, including people like us.
Yeah.
We are very, very open about having like even when we had Minister Desmond Lee on, it was a commission podcast.
Yeah.
Of course, we will always try our best to make sure that we don't compromise our own values and approach. But the government does work with content creators, and I think there's definitely a distaste for that. Even when we did a podcast, some people were saying, "Oh, sell out," and all, right? But I think that can be managed better, lah. Maybe it's the guidelines around declaring sponsored content, and also just the terminology used around things like this. Friends of the PAP sounds like a horrible name as a program, right? Your friends of the PAP.
Yeah.
Even though Desmond Lee did say that, they expect people to, like creators to disagree with them and all.
Yeah.
But the moment friends, right?
Yeah.
Like what would be a better term?
Partners, stakeholders.
Can't be adversaries.
Can't be adversaries, yeah.
But friends, and also like in the Straits Times article, I think it's literally like friends, right? The term is an actual title, I guess.
Yeah.
Because they refer to two friends who were put forward by the party to take media interviews on June 8th were the founder of Pulse TCM, Nicholas Poh, and the founder of Singapore Lactation Bakes, Miss Joanna Goy.
Yeah.
So where it gets iffy is that in May, like Pulse TCM was seen participating in a free community health screening event at Bukit Gombak, and Mr. Poh, who literally said he became a friend to tap the PAP's reach to accelerate that of his company in the wider community. And he says it basically accelerates the reach because they are very strong community-wise, so we can go from Gombak to another GRC and to another GRC.
Yeah.
So that is clearly like, wait, are you a friend of the PAP because...
For commercial interest.
Yeah. And that's where it gets very iffy. Because here's a business owner who's being quoted as saying he's joining to further his own business. And that, I think, is messed up.
But are you just being like
salty,
too naive and everything? Because that's how the
business
world works, right?
Yeah.
You network with powerful people, and that drives your business forward.
But then, the way Friends of the PAP is packaged is to further the government's efforts to build a better Singapore. Like, literally, that's what Lawrence Wong said.
Yeah.
To build the Forward Singapore Compact and all that. But then you get someone, and I totally agree, that's how the world works.
Yeah.
But to say it so explicitly, it almost feels like, oh, yeah, of course, this is why I joined.
Yeah. And in some ways, a little bit naive, right? To, like what you said, using the word friend to describe yourself, but then expecting people to be able to think that you are being objective about things.
Yeah.
That's you're sort of like wanting the cake and you want to eat the whole cake, right? Basically. Yeah. What's the saying? Having your cake and eating it also.
Yeah. Having your cake and eating it too. You have your cake and eat. Have your cake and eat it.
Yeah. Correct, yeah. Because I think for us also, it's not that, in some ways, like what this podcast is, we're not trying to basically pin people in the corner and then like poke them nonstop with questions and all that. In some ways, when we have guests on, we are also just trying to understand what goes on in the mind of this guest a little bit better, whether it's a minister or opposition politician and everything, so that our listeners also can have this quite rare peek into the person's mind also, like how they are in a room, what they're like to maybe sit next to and work with and things like that. Because that's what you'd want to know about people, right? When you interview them for a job or things like that, you want to know how are they like day to day at work, right? Barring all the big press releases or press conferences aside, right? And that's what our podcast tries to do. And And in some ways, you could say that, hey, how come you're not being more adversarial or and like questioning them harder? But in some ways, we're also giving people the opportunity to show that, hey, if you have interesting ideas, also you should put them out there and let the world listen to them, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe it's just a terminology thing where if they want to work with these influencers to further the message and all, a better way would have been to name it something else other than Friends of the PAP. Because the moment you say friends, then it just doesn't sound like it can be objective really, the message,
Yeah.
Right. You say, partners or even collaborators or something like that. I think that might be better than using the word friends.
Yeah, collaborators. Collaborators. Because, I mean, I think it's also not fair to just say that, anything to do with the incumbent government is bad. I mean, that's why we take on government projects. Because if we feel that this is a message that needs to go out, then it doesn't matter what party you're from.
Yeah.
It's an important message, right?
Yeah.
Or maybe it's just we are salty, we're not a friend.
You're not a friend.
We're not a friend.
You got mentioned in Parliament, but you're not a friend.
It's like that kind of work acquaintance. You know of him or her.
Yeah,
not friends. You're friends? No, not really. Not really friends.
Yeah.
Because they also quoted someone else who signed up as a friend but then decided to join the party.
Okay.
That one is like
progression. Yeah.
And he was very open saying that the party beliefs align with my own beliefs. So that's why I'm a friend of the PP.
Yeah.
But so some people more critical, some people less critical. But just the whole friend of the PAP thing, I don't know, man. The term needs an update, man.
Maybe it's the term, right? I don't begrudge people for their politics or what they believe in, but I think the term is the thing that's turning a lot of people off, right?
Yeah.
Because I mean, you see influencers who also, they do things with opposition parties and all that, but they don't go in there saying I'm a friend of this particular party and all that, right?
Yeah. And I saw some criticism saying also this person's a food blogger and all. Who are they to talk about politics and all? But I mean, politics applies to everyone, right?
Yeah.
And everyone has an opinion.
Yeah.
Before we started this podcast, people can say the same thing about us, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Doing all these videos on YouTube, going on the street, making a fool of yourself. Who are you to talk politics?
Yeah.
But look what we ended up doing.
Yeah.
Look what we ended up doing. But I think the rules of engagement for Friends of the PP not clear. Yeah, it still has an iffy feeling overall. Iffy feeling.
So the recommendation, I think, what we're saying here, the recommendation is maybe to change the name, Friends of the PAP. Something else, right?
Yeah, collab.
I think for other influencers is also it's for them or to decide right, how they want to pitch it to their own audience, right? Because their own audience might be fine with it.
Yeah.
But I think the idea of wanting to be authentic and show that you really think through some of these things before you put them in front of your audience, that I think that actually people will appreciate that as well.
Yeah. So it's just, I mean, it feels very old school.
A bit.
Very old school. It's not moving with the times.
Yeah.
Because I mean, it's off the back of some other initiatives which are quite newsworthy in terms of setting up a mental health awareness group and all this.
Yeah.
So it feels like it really is a refresh. But this one took the limelight.
Yeah.
This one took the limelight.
So shall we talk a little bit about one Shiok comment?
Yeah, man.
That has come up in recent days.
In recent days. So I mean, my one Shiok comment is something that is a comment that not so much in the recent days, but actually it came on August 14, 2023.
Wow.
Through a Reddit message.
Wow.
And Reddit message, I guess I still won't say the name because I mean it's a private DM. But it was referring to what I talked about. 8 out of 10 cats does countdown as a show. It's a UK quiz show with comedians, which are hilarious. But they recommended another panel show on this channel called Viva HD. So basically, it's a political commentator and a comedian, each leading a team of guests, usually celebrities and comedians, in playing games, guessing the news event that inspired the game.
Yeah.
It talks about news and current affairs. I haven't, and they also said arguably like your podcast, but more funny. So apparently Gary Neville also has hosted it before.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I haven't checked it out yet, but I was like, oh shit, I never acknowledged this message. So shout out to the person who sent that message with a recommendation because I will totally watch that.
Yeah.
Totally up my alley. So thanks for that.
Yeah. My one Shiok comment is from Telegram actually, because one beauty about the beauty of Telegram is that you can actually leave comments as well on like links that are shared and all. So every time we post a link to whether it's our podcast or other newsworthy links like yesterday, people can leave comments, and then some people. One person left a comment, you've succeeded as a content creator when you're making the news instead of just commenting on the news. I don't know whether that's a good thing, because you could say the same about the Friends of the PAP thing also, right? So, it's, but people are responding to some of the links that we post there as well. So it's a interesting place to and it's quick for us to react also. Yeah. So if you have any thoughts about our podcast also, you can leave it there.
Yeah, so join the Telegram group.
Yeah. That's
join
right.
the Telegram group. Cool. And what about your one Shiok thing, man?
My one Shiok thing is a very pretty awesome thing. Like recently, there seemed to be the I think it's called the this one I have to be careful because this one I don't want to later get cancelled. I think it's called the Disability Games. The Disability Games? FA Disability Cup. So this is actually a football competition that is played by different people with different less able or disabled, different kinds of disabilities. So there's a whole series of videos showing highlights from each match. So there are two of them that I watched that were pretty crazy. One is the Blind Cup. So it's literally blind people playing football on a pitch. And they are wearing eye masks as well to make sure everyone's on equal level of blindness. And it's kind of crazy because you watch it and you actually, there's actually a whole system of how they are allowed to, like the goalkeeper is apparently, the whole goalkeeper can see. So the goalkeeper is allowed to shout instructions to the rest of his teammates when the ball enters a certain region of the pitch. So that's how they play with each other. They actually listen for the movement of the players and the ball, but also listen for the goalkeeper shouting instructions at them on how to defend. But you watch it, it's kind of, I can't describe it here, but they kind of really are feeling their way around the pitch, and they are running, they're tackling, they're competing with each other really like hard. And it's quite amazing how they do it. So that's one. Then another match I saw was the Power Chair Cup. And it is what it sounds like. It's basically people on wheelchairs, electric wheelchairs, with a little like barrier in front of them that they can use to bump quite a big ball. It's not a typical soccer ball, but it's a bigger ball. And they use that to basically like a little bit like, what's that? Air hockey, they punt the ball around a very, very big pitch. But they also like are able to cross and dribble past keepers in electric wheelchairs, power chairs, I guess they're called. So this was like the final was Aspire versus West Brom. So I believe this took place in the UK. So it's a FA Disability Cup, and it was quite amazing to watch, I would say. To see people in all sorts with different kinds of disabilities like coming together and like having their own little like competitions and World Cup and all that.
Shit. And it just happened recently, is it?
Yeah. It was just posted on TNT Sports like a couple of days ago. Yeah. And it's quite amazing.
That's cool that there's more posting of this sort of stuff and sharing of this sort of stuff also.
Yeah. I think the first one I remember was last year, one of the nominated goals of the year, the Puskas, was from one of these disability matches. Yeah. It was like the guy on crutches, then he did a bicycle kick.
Oh, shit.
They will make Jude Bellingham proud. Yeah.
Oh, shit. Cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so my one Shiok thing, right, is so I think when I was like scrolling on TikTok a few weeks ago, I saw one of those videos that I just thought it was like AI and some bullshit fact, and like the voiceover. It talked about this shark that lives for like 200 plus years or something, the Greenland shark. And I was like, what fucking shit is this? But then I googled the Greenland shark, and it is literally the species with the longest lifespan across all invertebrates.
Oh, really?
And
longer than turtles.
Yeah, and guess how old the oldest specimen that has been caught was assumed to be calculated to be
200 years.
No, it had lived for approximately 392 years.
Oh, that's crazy.
Okay, they did say 392 plus minus 120 years.
Okay, it's still like 270.
270.
At
So
least.
basically, this shark, right?
Yeah.
It lives at very low depths. Their lifespan is generally approximated between 250 and 500 years. They reach sexual maturity at 150 years of age.
Holy
Basically,
crap.
their puberty is at 150 years.
Wow.
And their gestation period of the pups, right, are
Yeah.
between 8 to 18 years.
Whew. Wow. That's
So
insane.
everything with the shark, they also move very slow, and everything is just slowed down.
Yeah.
It's a big ass shark. I think they can grow up to 7 meters.
Yeah.
And it looks like you take a normal shark, but you know when you keep things for a long time and stuff like kind of grows on them and their little spots. That's what the Greenland shark looks like, lah.
I see.
So it's ridiculous. You read it, and I mean it's a conserved species because I mean it's just a very unique species, lah.
Yeah.
And it's still eaten as a delicacy in Iceland.
Oh man.
You know, I think it's one of the most stinky smooth food in the world.
Oh, really?
The fermented fish meat in Iceland.
Okay.
So there's also this fermented shark meat, lah.
Are they like critically endangered or anything?
I don't think they are endangered, but definitely conserved, lah. I think because the population, it's hard to estimate also because they live at very deep depths.
Yeah.
And I think, yeah, like they still get, I wouldn't say hunted for food because the food needs to be, the flesh needs to be treated a lot before it's safe, because the urea content is insane.
Yeah.
But yeah, it has a role in the Arctic ecosystem. It is, I think, because it has a very slow growth rate, the species is very monitored and conserved, because it's very susceptible to overfishing. You imagine you hunt, like if a few overfish even slightly, the replacement time is very, very long. But yeah, it just blew my mind that it can grow up to like 300 plus years. So the one they caught, they estimated it was born between 1504 and 1744.
Whew, that's crazy.
And they caught it in 1952.
Wow. Insane.
Fucking nuts, man.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Greenland shark it's crazy. It's like the craziest shark species I've ever come across, man.
Wow.
Yeah, man.
So you came across this in the midst of like doom scrolling on like
TikTok,
like girls dancing and all that. And suddenly
please.
Greenland shark.
You know, it's all about positive thinking, health, fitness. Then this one Greenland shark came out. Please, Terrence. It's a very curated feed on TikTok now.
Every time you tell me it's something
I
on
could see you
TikTok, I can
smile just
imagine
now.
it like you're scrolling, like girls dancing, all that. Then suddenly, hey, Greenland shark.
No. If a girl dance out, I mean, if it pops up, lah, you know. But everything else is just about, you know, positive thinking, productivity and shit like that, lah.
Yeah.
But yeah, man. Cool.
Wow, there's quite a landmark episode that we just did.
Landmark episode.
Yeah. Again, so if you're new here because of what you saw in Parliament and everything, please do, hit subscribe, follow, do all the things that tell the algorithm that you like this.
Yeah. And if you want to work with us, remember to check us out at ministryoffunny.com. All right. Thanks everyone for listening, and we'll talk to y'all soon.